Mwaramutse neza muraho muraho neza tuvuganire mu rurimi ki tuvuge cyangwa igiswahili bareba ngo asante sana. Okay, ndagerageza ndabishyira mu cyongereza nimutabyumva ndabishyira mu kinyarwanda. Please be seated. Rwandans, friends of Rwanda, and especially our young Rwandans. I am grateful to all those who organized this forum. Seeing all these young Rwandans makes me think that this gathering is long overdue. I thank all of you who have come from near and far, brought together by love for the motherland. That is the birthright of everyone, of every single Rwandan, no matter where you were born, when, or where you live. My job today is to challenge you, but more importantly, also to remind you of the immense opportunities that are within our reach. Rwanda was liberated by young people like you. We listened to our conscience and recognized our duty to fight injustice. Many of us gave our youth to this cause. So many others gave their lives to the struggle so that you would not have to. These sacrifices were not in vain because it brought us to these, it made the first stages of our struggle happen, of our liberation happen. And Rwanda, let me assure you, is doing very well. But the journey before us is still long. The liberation mindset must remain alive in all of us until we achieve social and economic transformation. The challenges Rwanda faces today are less dramatic than in the past. Yet, in many ways, they remain complex. In fact, compared to the past, we can even say we are lucky to have such problems. We need a new generation of problem solvers who see further and work smarter. You are that generation, no matter where you live, You have a role to play. Let's recall where we are coming from. 20 years ago, the world saw Rwandans as a people fit only for hating and killing each other. Now, they complain that we pursue our development goals too energetically. That's not a bad problem to have. By 1994, Rwanda had produced around 2,000 university graduates in total for all decades. Today, 11,000 people graduate every year. And we worry about improving education quality. That's a better problem to have. Rwandans used to accept power blackouts as normal, if they had electricity at all. Today, just look at how people tweet their dissatisfaction at the power company if the lights go out for just an hour. We still need to produce a lot more energy, but we are keeping environmental sustainability in mind as we do so. That's a problem we didn't think about before. Rwandans used to die from malaria and other preventable diseases in their tens of thousands, young children most of all. But today, we have witnessed the fastest rates of lowering these mortalities in the whole history. Now we have a specialist cancer hospital near Musanze. Cancer is a problem that we did not have the luxury to even acknowledge before. This is what progress looks like. The easy problems begin to fade into memory, and the harder ones present themselves. Our expectations and standards are higher, but so too is our prosperity and well-being. This momentum is fueled by Rwanda's indispensable value, agaciro, the dignity that comes from being responsible for ourselves and proud of who we are. Without this compass to guide us from generation to generation, we risk losing what progress has been made. As children of Rwanda, you are the guardians of this legacy of agaciro. Let it be reflected every day in your thoughts, words, above all, your deeds. First, agaciro means that you try to understand the world we live in. You are not afraid to question assumptions. For example, why do so many of us, Africans, continue to depend on other people, given all the resources that we have? Why do we accept endless lessons in human rights and democracy from people who never lack excuses and justifications for their own shortcomings, and even in some cases, crimes. You must understand and learn to recognize these unjust presentations so you can reject them. Second, you must maintain a focus on excellence and results, and all the inspiration and values you have will amount to nothing if they are not put into action every day in the service of your goals. The discipline of perfecting the small things that matter is what forms lifelong habits and results in big achievements, whether for an individual or a country. I see it all the time when I'm here in the Western world or in other countries, say in Asia, that are far ahead of everyone else. From innovation in technology and business to quality customer service, there is pride in professionalism and attention to detail that we should not fail to learn from and practice ourselves. So do not accept or tolerate mediocrity in yourselves or in others. Defy the low expectations that some may have of you, or that you may even have of yourselves. You simply do not have the luxury of getting tired or giving up. In the end, it will cost you, those around you, and your country more than you realize. Finally, and most importantly, as you continue to acquire valuable education, skills, and experience, guard preciously and proudly your Rwandan identity and African heritage. What you gain here should add to who you are as a person and make you a better Rwandan. In the same way that we are constantly trying to make Rwanda a better place. But the values you hold and what you believe in is what makes all the difference. Don't let what the system you operate in diminish you as a person. Nothing should make you think that your identity and background are somehow inferior. You are as important and relevant as anyone else. You young people, when I see you, I see Rwanda. Your generation makes up 70% of our population. Imagine how much strength there is in these millions of Rwandans working working towards the same goals. Solving difficult problems is part of us now. We're always thinking of how to do much more and better, to build a strong nation of strong individuals. Rwanda has very high ambitions and few resources, but we must get there because we have you. There are no apologies to be made about this. This is the mindset of a nation that has chosen agaciro for itself. There are many ways to express your patriotism, many ways to love your country, and many ways to join your fellow Rwandans in nation building as we contribute to a better world we all want to live in. If you are here today, it's because your country remains close to your heart and you want to be part of this journey. I cannot choose for you how you participate, but I trust you to make the right choices. Find your way and commit to it. We will deliver our country to where we want it. I thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your words. They will resonate with us forever. We take them to heart, and we will do our part to take on the journey that our giants have started. Thank you. At this moment, as we move on to a panel, I would like to introduce to you all our moderator, whom many know as a journalist, but we know her as a dear friend of Rwanda, Zane Verji. Welcome.
Technology and microphones, taking priority right now. It's really a pleasure to be with everyone here today. And as we wait for His Excellency, let's just introduce the panel to you and give you a sense of who else will be talking and contributing in the discussion today. To give you an idea of how we'd like to run this, we will talk for about 45 minutes or so, and really grapple with the important issues of identity, of legacy, of how do we build on the past, how do we take today, and how do we launch Rwanda into tomorrow. Rwanda has grabbed the headlines around the world because there's a new story in Rwanda, an inspirational one that involves all of you here today to be able to contribute to the new image and the new perception and the new reality of Rwanda, which is a country that is innovative, dynamic, inspiring, motivating, and an economy that is growing at an average of 8% a year. It is the story, and I tell you everywhere I go, Rwanda is a topic of discussion, both on a business front, on a political front, as well as on a personal level. People want to know more about the youth in Eastern Africa. They want to know about your hopes, your imagination, your creativity, and what is it that you really want. And this is the kind of forum that it really gets no better than this. You can talk to number one and raise all your issues and all your concerns and talk about the Rwanda that you want to see tomorrow. So all my breaking news came in handy there. But really, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Murakaza Neza, welcome. In my language, where I'm from in Kenya, in Swahili, I'd like to say karibuni. Rwanda today, as I mentioned, is about inspiration. It's about dedication, and it's about motivation. Young Rwandans are connected, very, very creative, dynamic, and let's be honest, just really cool. Yeah? And very good looking. I'd like to introduce to you now some amazing Rwandaful individuals, new word I learned today. Ephraim Ramwenge is a 22-year-old serial entrepreneur, and he is really passionate about economic empowerment. At the end, Charity Kabango is the director and co-founder of Entrepreneurial Solutions Partners. She's also the band manager of her brother Shad, who's a great musician, and also her brother. Alois Zunguzungu is a presidential scholar, and he founded Rwandans for Water. He also runs a creative hub, and he wants to be a motivational speaker. Sandrine Irandunga is the residence director at Georgia's Gwinnett College and vice president of Rwanda Connect. So why don't we start with this key question, and Charity, you'll go first. What does it mean to you to be Rwandese today?
So, hello, can everyone hear me? Maybe before I answer the question, I can ask a question to the audience to just gauge the room a little bit. How many of you are currently living outside of Rwanda? Hi, so I can see. Okay, so I'm not alone. How many of you have ever lived outside of Rwanda? Again, hi, very high. Oh, there are fewer to the second question. That doesn't seem right. So one of the things that I always wrestled with, or I used to wrestle with, and maybe some of you can relate, is it even possible to be connected and to be fully Rwandan without living there? And at one point, I didn't really think it was. I thought, I just have to finish school and get back and just move back and pack up and leave. And I realized that way of thinking was problematic for a number of reasons. But the biggest one is because it lets us off the hook. And it lets the Rwandans that either can't or have not moved back yet kind of off the hook for being a part of what's going on and for really be owning our Rwandan heritage. So if I'm going to think about what it means, it's something beyond geography. And I think that's the first thing that we tend to think of is it's a physical place. Rwanda is a physical place, and you must have both your feet there to be a part of it. And I would say, as a Rwandan who was born in Uganda, grew up in Canada, if you haven't figured out the accent, that's where it's from, grew up in Canada, it's beyond geography. It's a legacy. It's our heritage. It's in our blood, but even beyond our blood, it's an inheritance of values and culture and of ownership for the direction of the country. So that's what I would say is.
Alois, what does being Rwandan mean to you?
Hello, everybody. I was born and raised in Rwanda. I came to school in Oklahoma Christian as a presidential scholar, graduated and went back home. And being a Rwandan is a blessing to be a part of this generation that's building a nation that all other countries will be learning from in the next few years. So being Rwandan is a blessing, and I'm very proud.
Brian?
Hello, testing. Hello?
There you go.
Okay. Yes, what does Rwandan mean to me? Being Rwandan. I think from the beginning of the whole session, they've been talking about values. And I think that dignity, that I want to take initiative to do something, the owning of our future, the owning of where we want to go as a country, being intentional with what we do. To me, I think that's what defines me as a Rwandan, wanting to contribute, wanting to add value everywhere I go. Yeah.
Sandrine, do you see it that way as well? How do you think of values and mindset and geography and also language as part of being essentially Rwanda today?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Charity said. I kind of was going to talk about that a little bit. I think being Rwandan doesn't have borders, so you do not have to live in Rwanda to be Rwandan. I think it doesn't matter wherever you are, you're still Rwandan. That's our identity. That's who we are. So I definitely see that way. Also, the values that I think Rwandans have, the main one that kind of I own, and I feel like all Rwandans have that, are the one that we've been talking about: resilience and reliance. So we are such a resilient people. And I think for most people who live outside of Rwanda, one thing that they can all relate to is when you meet people and you say, I'm from Rwanda, they say, oh, you've seen Hotel Rwanda. And so I think for Rwandans, we have to decide to not be determined by our past. So to kind of say, no, I'm not from just Hotel Rwanda, there's more to Rwanda. And saying that, so that's why I think those are some of the values that we have to focus on: resilience and reliance.
Your Excellency, how do you see identity in Rwanda today, and how do you see its evolution?
Well, Zain, I thought from here you went the other side. I thought you implied I was less Rwandan. Yes, but many of us, or all of us, who have or belong to that identity of Rwanda or Rwandan, we find ourselves, we were born, we found ourselves Rwandan, and we don't want to change that. Or if we attempted, we would not even succeed. There are many identities across the world. So we are Rwandans, and we want to keep it that way. And that we found ourselves Rwandan, and having a nation of Rwanda gives us a belonging. Identity is about a belonging, where you have your roots, where you have where you start from making other connections across the world. So this is, in as far as generally identity is concerned, but for Rwandan identity specifically, I agree with what the young people have just said. It's really not a geographical issue to be able to identify with your origins. You can still be who you are, have the same identity. When you live elsewhere in this world, or even for those who have acquired other identities later on in life, it does not erase being Rwandan. We have many people who have become nationals of different countries, who have acquired citizenship. They are still Rwandan. So it's a question of how they want and how they choose to relate to that, as well as they become something else. But that connection remains, and that speaks to the essence of this identity and the Rwandan identity.
Let's talk a little bit about that and how they choose to relate. Charity, tell us a little bit about how you connect to Rwanda and being Rwandan. Tell us about how you engage and how you see yourself building the future of Rwanda through the way that you connect and engage.
Thank you. So for me, 5 years ago, myself and 2 other partners started a firm called ES Partners, and we focus on supporting entrepreneurs and other leaders. And that work has allowed me to support and work with important institutions in Rwanda, whether it's BRD or the Imbuto Foundation, Minicom, but it's allowed me to directly deposit some of my skills and some of my capacity and my knowledge. But I think that it starts even well beyond just your vocation, if you will. I think it's staying plugged in, understanding what are the issues, knowing that energy is a problem. If you've never experienced one of those 1-hour power outages, you might not know that that's even a problem. So I think some of it starts with just getting to know the country and getting to know the challenges and the opportunities that are there, and then finding ways to contribute to those challenges. And for me, it's been the professional vocation that's allowed it, but for others, it's a volunteer, for others, it's investing, for others, it's contributing to their families back home. I think there are a number of ways to stay connected, but it's really about making a commitment to do so, to plug in.
And Alois, you've done that with the water project, with being engaged with Creative Hub. Tell us a little bit about how you stay connected and what you think is the most important thing for you as you look towards the future.
For me and my story, I probably relate to a lot of students here who came here on scholarships or maybe with some other arrangements. To me, it was a favor, it was a privilege, it changed my life completely, and I felt like I owed something to the Rwandan people, and I still believe that. And that's why I engage in any way I can to add value to my country.
Ephraim?
For me, as you mentioned, I am an entrepreneur. I was born and raised in Botswana. And I moved to Rwanda in 2012. But before that, I was in Botswana and I was running a business there. And through everything that I was doing that side, I wanted to take my business to the next level. And I figured, I heard so much about Rwanda. I had visited, and Rwanda grows on you. You may start off, I don't know how to explain it. I think people know who have gone back know what I'm talking about. You start off, okay, no, it's Rwanda, it's home, I'm Rwandan. But you eventually start to develop a love for the nation. And for me, that's what happened. And I found myself...
What is it that made you develop that love?
I think it was, I looked at the sacrifices that our parents made. And when you look at what they put into the nation to get it where it is, they fought for our dignity, the pride of holding a Rwandan passport, of calling myself Rwandan, my language, my culture. They fought for all of that. And for me, that's what inspired me and said, look, I need to add value to this nation. I need to take it to the next level. I need to contribute to it. I like the title of this panel. It's called Owning the Future. Owning. And for me, that's what happened to me. I felt a sense of responsibility towards the vision that these people had set in motion. Yeah.
I'm not sure where to go next.
Depends on what you want to ask.
I'll let Sandrine pick up off the same topics about staying connected, about engaging with the community you have around you in Rwanda Connects, living in Georgia. What is it like for you to stay connected? What is it that you do that is meaningful?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Rwanda, and so I it is my duty to represent Rwanda. So when I came here to the United States, I feel like when someone sees me, they need to see what Rwanda is like. So it is my duty to behave in a way that glorifies our nation. And so with that in mind, then I love my country, and so I wanted to stay connected. Just because I was away from my country, I still wanted to stay connected to my culture, to my roots, and also to other Rwandans. And so in Georgia, we started an organization called Rwanda Connect that focused mainly on young people so that they can also feel a sense of belonging. That although you're far from home, doesn't mean that you can't talk about Rwanda, doesn't mean that you can't follow what's going on and invest and help your community. So that's how I connect with other Rwandans who are here in the United States and in Georgia and Atlanta, where we connect and just help each other and be a community. Because if something happens to me, the first people that should come are the Rwandans. They're gonna be there for me. That's my family. And so I'll connect mainly by connecting to other Rwandans here.
And how do you project the image of Rwanda to non-Rwandans living in the United States, for example? What is it that you say?
As I stated, the first question is always about the genocide. And a lot of non-Rwandan people are intrigued and they want to know how were you there, what happened, and they're still seeing Rwanda in the lenses of the past, what happened in the past. And so when I speak to people, what I try to do is portray the Rwanda today. What is in Rwanda today? Our economic development, our unity, that we're Rwandans. We're not different tribes, we're Rwandans first and foremost, and explaining that that's Rwanda today. And there's so much happening that we have moved on. So the rest of the world needs to move on with us.
What's wonderful about being here today is the openness and the transparency of this kind of conversation with the youth and the leadership of Rwanda, which is rare and very impressive and inspiring. President Kagame, you yourself were only 33 years old when you became the leader of a nation, leading also the liberation struggle. I think it would be really insightful to so many of us to understand, what was it like at that age to lead?
Well, more difficult than leadership is generally. Leadership is a very general thing, and it's not easy if you want to live up to the meaning of it. But in my case, starting very young, getting involved in the history of the struggle starts when I am 20, 21, grow through these difficult periods of different things that were happening and which I also think were useful in a sense of informing and shaping my own understanding of later on who I turned out to be, or the role I played in the process of transforming Rwanda, or getting it from where it is and where it has been and where we are today. But it starts with being challenged as a young person, a refugee. I was born in Rwanda, but grew up as a refugee in a refugee camp for decades, 2.5, with all kinds of difficulties. But every single day, or every time, from say the age of, very early age, I was asking myself what kind of life we were living, and asking questions, and asking myself, and of course not finding answers until some point when I grew up, and together with others, many other Rwandans, of my age, others slightly older, we had to figure out what to do in order for us to change this kind of life. Because being a refugee, being stateless for so long, and asking these questions and finding no answers means something was terribly wrong, and still we had to keep trying to figure out what needed to be done. That's how I got involved in the struggle, and with many other young people, others, as I said, older, and we tried to do something. And by the way, let me just remind these young people that you can be inspired, you can dream, you can, we form the catchwords, we use all the time. But the main difference it makes is whether you are doing something. You must do something. Dreaming is not enough. Being inspired is not enough. Education is not enough. You must go beyond those and say, what am I doing based on this, or what I want to achieve? That's the big difference. So in our situation at the time, just back to the question, questioning ourselves, what was happening, and being angry and about the life we were living, and the blame game people talked about earlier, saying so-and-so is responsible for this, is not enough until you put all that together and say, but what is my role? Where is my place? What am I going to do? Even if others will do their part, you have to do your own part and do something. So that's how really the whole thing was crafted and built up to the point that we found ourselves involved in the struggle, armed struggle at some point, with all the costs that came with it and sacrifices. But it was about doing something. You can't just sit there and wish and something has to be done. And sometimes it comes at a very high cost. And people must be prepared. Some people must be prepared to pay what it costs.
For you personally, what is the greatest lesson that you have learned about leadership, and how do you think that the youth today can apply it to take Rwanda forward?
Leadership simply means responsibility. Are you ready to take responsibility for yourself and for others around you? But it starts with yourself. And it's not easy. I have not found easy choices in my growth into leadership. I have not. If I were to find easy choices, I would suspect something is wrong. And have to think through again and be sure it's really what it is that is presenting itself. So that is one thing. It's taking responsibility. It's understanding that it's not going to be easy, but that even if it is not easy, it's what you must do, and it raises you to that level where everyone wants to be. But leadership means also you are not alone. Much as people say it's a lonely place, that's what I believe it doesn't need to be a lonely place. You have to understand that you are with others, and there is no such a problem that it just belongs to you alone. It's always a problem or problems that cut across and people share. So it's important that in responsibility of leadership, or in leadership as a responsibility, you think about how you work with others or how you bring in others to participate for their well-being, for their own interests, for their own responsibility, as well as you exercise your part. So it's a complex thing, but once you are in it, you always have to find a way through it.
Ephraim pointed out earlier that the theme of this panel is ownership and owning the future. Charity, how are you going to own Rwanda's future?
It's a very good question. I think part of it for me is really understanding the challenges and really getting, immersed in, if we need to get from, I think it's 153 megawatts to 563 in the next few years. That's a big problem. We have to wrap our minds around the big problems that are ahead of us. And then finding, partnering and working with the people that are going to help make those changes and plugging into the momentum that the country has and into what's going on and really finding a way to contribute to what's happening in all the different sectors where there's activity, I think.
Alois?
I think I'll add to what she just said. For me, owning the future is looking at challenges and proposing solutions to those challenges. For us, what we did before I graduated, I looked at the problem, clean water. Some Rwandans still struggle to get water. And we were like, we can provide a solution. And we put all our energy together. College kids who didn't know anything raised money. They learned a few technologies. They put together. They purchased a few materials, and we went home as a one-time project. And before we knew it, it was a strong initiative that was actually saving lives. So when I look at it, it's owning the challenges and proposing some solutions that our people can use.
And do you get the kind of support and assistance that you would like from the leadership and the country? Is there something that you would like that you don't have, that you would like more of, other than money? What would make the project better? That's what I'm trying to get to, to distribute water to more places, to more towns and villages in the country.
I think the government has helped a lot, facilitated our work to penetrate in the villages. The challenge we still see is ownership from the local people, to own these projects, to own these solutions and take advantage of them. That's why we are forging partnerships with local government to help us to train these people to own the problems and own the solutions. That's what we've been trying to do for the last few years.
Ephraim, how will you own Rwanda's future?
Coming back to what they keep saying about problems and solutions, I'll maybe give an example. For me, one of the biggest challenges I've faced is making sure that my problems don't turn into excuses. Like the challenges I face don't turn into excuses. Recently, actually, today morning, I was telling them, I had a chance to interact with a young man who is based here. And he was giving reasons as to why he can't come back. And he's studying engineering. And he gave the example of, even though this is a huge misconception, because I've lived in Rwanda and these things don't exist, but he gave the issue of water and internet. And I said, actually, if there's no good infrastructure for water and you're an engineer, that's a reason to come back. Not a reason to run away. And for me, in regards to owning the future, coming back to the solutions and the problems, I think for me, as an entrepreneur, we have been facilitated with exceptional, okay, I import sugar. So my containers come from Dar es Salaam to Kigali. And there's so much security and then the system is so transparent, I don't have to worry about the downtimes. I don't have to worry about whether my sugar is going to get stolen. I don't have to worry about that because they have set the systems in motion. And one of the things that I really feel as a young person when it comes to owning the future is, first of all, acknowledging and appreciating what has been put in place for my benefit, and then taking advantage of that. People will say, no, entrepreneurs are people who effectively utilize resources. But I think in each and every one of us, it's necessary to have that entrepreneurial drive, where we feel that we have been given so much, and instead of asking for more, find how we can utilize what we have to take to the next level. And we have been given so much. So that's how I feel I am owning Rwanda's future.
And President Kagame, given what Ephraim just said about entrepreneurs, how is Rwanda helping the entrepreneurs of the country own the future? What is it that you would want to see, and how could you help further?
Helping entrepreneurs is, let me just give a simple example. It's like constructing a highway so that people move on the highway. So the government puts the necessary infrastructure in place, the hard and the soft types of infrastructure, and puts in place also policies that are favorable for people who have entrepreneurial mind to be able to operate. And there is a big gap between putting the environment in place and how people take advantage of it. And those entrepreneurs normally will take advantage of the kinds of environments that are put in place. So we've been building highways, different kinds, so that the entrepreneurs take advantage of this. We actually build the physical infrastructure. We made sure that we have invested in technologies where we didn't have to wait for private people to make their own investments, because they may not make that choice you expect them to make or want them to make. For example, when we invested in fiber optic infrastructure across the country, it was so that it doesn't only serve schools, hospitals, administrative entities, but can be taken advantage of by people who want to do businesses or apply different innovations based on the kind of this technological backbone we have created. So this is how, and also access to capital, where capital is needed. The rule of law, the regulatory framework is clear, is favorable, so that there is a level field on which people can carry out their different activities as entrepreneurs or other people doing different things. So this is that's how government approaches it. Government doesn't get involved so much in business as much as it facilitates businesses to happen, or people with entrepreneurial minds or spirit to be able to take advantage of this and do what they freely want to do.
And as it facilitates and grows and encourages young entrepreneurs, do you believe that it would be more valuable to Rwanda if more Rwandans living outside of the country came home and helped build the country?
Yes, and come home in the many ways that the young people have already described. You can come home physically or otherwise. Because
good answer.
Yes, you can send you can invest in Rwanda, it means you're present in Rwanda. But you can even invest in Rwanda from outside. But where there is need for people to fill certain gaps by being there physically, we also welcome it and, in fact, want to facilitate it. But we want to avoid that there will be people who, for one reason or another, and one excuse has already been given, I mean, by somebody who was having some imaginary reason or problem in Rwanda that wasn't going to allow him to come back. So we want to make sure that we don't miss the two. We don't miss people coming back physically or otherwise. So at least it has to be one or the other. In fact, you can even be both. Because for one person, it can be both. Because you can physically be in Rwanda for a period of time, and then you can be somewhere else another time. But still, as long as you are connected with Rwanda and investing your time and resources and everything else, we are happy with that. In fact, let me tell you this. It's linked with this. That way back is when we made huge investments and sent many of our young people, boys and girls, to go and study outside. And the government put in a lot of money. We sent hundreds of our young people to go study in India, in the United States, to Europe, and so on. And an argument came up, and people were saying, you know, government is making a big mistake. Some of these young people, maybe even the majority of them, may never come back. They're just going to stay outside, and we would have facilitated that. So my pushback on this was, I don't think it is a waste of money. I'll keep putting my money here because exactly of the same argument. I think the majority of these people, even if they would not come back physically, I think they have some common sense to want to come back to Rwanda in some form. Yes, I think so. So I was always betting my money on that. And I think over time, those who were having the other argument have come and said, I think you are right.
And I think a direct beneficiary of what you're saying is sitting right here, Alois, who won a presidential scholarship, studied abroad, and is now back home. Mm-hmm. So it was a good bet. And Sandrine, physically or otherwise, how do you see owning the future of Rwanda?
Yes, so currently I'm on the otherwise side. I am in Rwanda, not physically, but my heart is in Rwanda. I am Rwandan. And so I think the first step to owning the future for a lot of us is understanding and realizing that it is our responsibility and we are the future. And so we are the future of our country. It is on us. However the future is going to be depends on us. As the young people. And so I think one thing, it doesn't always have to be business, because I think a lot of time we focus on business and just investing. I think that's great, but I also think that's not the only way to owning the future in Rwanda. There's so many other needs. And for me personally, I think everyone can find their passion, whatever they're passionate about, and find a need in Rwanda that fits that passion and help our country.
What is your passion? What motivates you?
For me, I'm really passionate about children, high-risk children. And so one of my dreams, or one thing that I really want to accomplish, I want to be able to return to Rwanda and start a nonprofit organization that help high-risk children children that lost both their parents or that might not have someone to care for them because they're our future, so we need to care for them now. So that's my passion, and that's what I'm inspired by and what I want to do. And so I'm working towards that. So I can go back home and start that. Now, everyone has a different passion, and